things that I think that you should know before you try to pursue your career as a professional model. Hi there, I am Kamla-Kay. I'm an agency signed model, modeling coach, and posing coach, and I have booked some pretty amazing jobs for either print work or TV commercials, including even modeling in South Africa for 3 months. So let's dive right in so that you can propel your career as a model, but also not make some of the same mistakes that I did. Okay, tip number 1 of what you should know as you try to become a model is that it can take you months before you actually book a job, even after you have been signed to a modeling agency. So when I started out my career, I was actually working full-time at a corporate company, and then I decided that I really wanted to pursue my career. So I quit my full-time job, moved to Miami, or moved back to Miami rather, and then started trying to get the ball rolling with booking modeling jobs. Now, before I did quit my corporate job, which I don't necessarily recommend that you do unless you have lots of savings, but before I did quit my corporate job, I did make sure that I did get signed to an agency before I moved to Miami, so that was super helpful. But one of the things that I didn't necessarily understand fully and that I want to make sure that you're fully prepared for is that even when you do get signed with an agency, it could take 3, 4, 5 months before you actually book your first job. And that is because the agency will have to go through the various processes of getting you set up on their website, maybe creating a comp card for you, creating your portfolios and developing you in that sense and having you work with various photographers, and then introducing you to clients. So for some models, it happens right away, right? They start booking jobs right away and their career just takes off. And then for a lot of models, it does take time. So there is nothing wrong with the process in terms of maybe what the agency is doing. It just means that sometimes that's just going to be the journey that you're on, or that you have to be on in order to get to the level that you hopefully want to make it to. So in that sense of it potentially taking months before you actually get a job, it can also be pretty inconsistent in the amount of times that you work for the week or the month. So there may be times for the week or the month where you have multiple castings, where maybe you're going on 5, 6 castings per week, and then other times where you have an entire week when you only go on 1 casting. So as you can see, 5, 6 castings obviously increases your chances of getting that job versus just 1 casting. And then sometimes there are opportunities where you're getting a direct booking. So a direct booking, for instance, is when you do not have to necessarily go to a casting, but the client is looking at your photos and then determining from your photos if they want to book you for a job. So you really don't know until you dive into the process what's going to happen. Maybe based on the season, the time of year essentially, or the market, aka the location that you're in, that's going to determine how consistent your jobs have the potential to be, but also there is really no guarantee that you're going to be busy versus not busy certain times of the year, because it does fluctuate from person to person. So this goes back to when I said, make sure that you have some savings, because you need to make sure, or have a part-time job as you do this, so that you are still being able to be responsible for your bills and whatever else you need to pay for in your life. Okay, before I continue on to my next tip, make sure that you hit that subscribe button if you have not already done so. Thumbs up button so that you get notifications with the bell icon, and then leave comments, because the comments let me know what other content you need or what clarity you need. And it also really helps my channel because YouTube likes engagement, and then I put out more content for you. Okay, tip number 2 in terms of things that you should know before trying to become a model is that yes, modeling takes money, and not for necessarily your bills, but in the sense of actually building your career. So there is this misconception that you should not have to pay anything to become a model. So let me clarify that. You should not have to pay to get a contract with an agency. If a modeling agency says, hey, Jen, Chris, Matt, whatever, we would love to sign you, but we have a $100 registration fee, or you are required to take all of these various classes with us that's going to cost $2,000 or $3,000, do not do that, right? If an agency truly believes in you, They are not going to force you to pay in order to get a contract, right? And if they do want you to take any types of runway classes or training, again, it's not going to be something that's going to cost you $3,000 for that to happen. But there should never be a requirement by the agency for you to get a contract that you have to give them any upfront payment, because when you work with a modeling agency, they should be trying to get you money and you not just dishing out money to them. However, having said that, it does take money to get to the next level. So if you're constantly only shooting with photographers that are local and up and coming as well, and that are still trying to develop their portfolio, versus shooting with photographers that are already well established and are working with those top brands that you want to work with, then yes, you are going to have to invest in shooting with those photographers. And so those photographers that are of the quality that you want to shoot with, a lot of them, they're going to be $600, $700, $800, even $1,000, right, for you to get those quality images that you need to have for your portfolio. Also keep in mind, you may have to invest in things like travel. If you're in a really small town and you need to get to another country or another state, for instance, you're going to need to have the funds to be able to do that, because not every agency is going to advance all of the costs for you. There are some agencies that if you're going to go to another country, for instance, maybe they will pay for your plane ticket for you to get there, and then once you work, they'll reimburse themselves from the money from your jobs. But a lot of times you are going to have your own funds to get to different locations, and you're also going to need to have money, for instance, for like gym memberships, making sure that you have money for adequate food and healthy foods, and not just going and getting the dollar menu from McDonald's every day. Things of that nature is going to be really important. Another thing to consider in terms of budget, so we're still on this topic of modeling costs. Let's say that you are a model, for instance, especially for my Black models, sometimes we have to have things such as wigs, curly wigs, straight wigs, because as you know, or maybe you don't know, but as I'm going to share, a lot of times when we're on set, especially as a Black model, there are not stylists there who understand our hair texture. And that is why a lot of times you'll see Black women in shoots wearing wigs, because that is the only way to ensure that our hair will look good for campaigns. That's the only way to ensure that when we get to work, there's not going to be all of these crazy, eyes and questions about what should I do with her hair, right? So investing in a good quality wig is also going to be super important, unless you do have hair that you don't mind putting the flat iron through or the curling iron through every single time that you go on a shoot. Really quick pause, make sure that you go to the description area, because I do have a link in the description where you can get a free modeling guide, and that modeling guide has a list of some agencies that you can download to start submitting to if you're really not sure who to start reaching out to. And then also in the description area is a posing course link. So yes, I have a posing course, and I want to make sure that as you're developing your modeling portfolio, that you really have strong poses so that clients take you more seriously. So if you need to develop more confidence on camera, different poses between like your favorite one or two go-to, make sure that you go to the description area and click on the link that says posing course. Okay, something else that you really should know before trying to pursue your modeling career is when it comes to you getting paid. So let's say that you are signed to a modeling agency and working with brands, even the top brands of the world. A lot of times the process of getting paid is that your contract will say that it can take 60 to 90 days for you to get paid. So I know, you're like 60 to 90 days? Yes. And that is because when you are signed to an agency, the agency will get paid by the client. Sometimes the agency will pay the model right away. And honestly, sometimes the agencies, truth be told, they hang on to the money till the 90-day mark, or sometimes even longer. And sometimes some clients just do not pay in the time period that they should pay, but the agencies don't really rush them to pay because the agency doesn't want to lose that brand as a client. So if you're used to getting paid every 2 weeks in your corporate job, it is not like that by any means in the modeling industry. So yes, there are some agencies and some brands that will pay quicker. Generally, the quickest though is going to be a month's time period. So that's why I always recommend, when you're starting out as a model, having that savings, having that side income job, that part-time job, right? And there are a lot of models even that are a little bit more established that still have other sources of income, because whether you're trying to be a model or a completely different field, you always hear people talk about having multiple streams of income. So as you pursue this as a model, always make sure that you have multiple streams of income. Okay, tip number 4, in terms of making sure that you understand what it's going to take to become a model, or things that you should be aware of as you try to pursue your modeling career, is that even if you have the typical model body, the height, the features, all of those things where people are always asking you, hey, are you a model? Or people are always telling you that you should be a model, just know that every brand and every agency is not going to see you as a model, right? Every brand, every agency, they have their favorites. They have the features they like. They have the brands that they work with, right? And so they know what the clients are generally looking for. So you may have an agency that says, you're not the right fit for us, right? Or they don't even respond to your submission, and then you're getting discouraged. So understanding that there is a lot of rejection in this industry. There's a lot of competition. There's going to be a lot of gorgeous men and women out there who are equally as fit for the job and equally as ready to be signed to that same agency. So yes, there's going to be that rejection. There's going to be the clients that tell you you're not for us, but that does not mean that you should change your self-esteem about yourself or start having mental health issues. It's really important for you to focus on all of those things, and just know that if this is truly a career that is meant for you, that the agency will eventually find you that's best for you, or you'll eventually find the agency as well best for you. But just understanding that it can take time sometimes for the process to come to fruition of getting signed and getting the contract and actually booking work. So the rejection piece was my 4th tip. All right, so we are nearing the end of the tips in terms of things that you should know before you start becoming a model, things that I had to learn and that I didn't really know at the start of my modeling career. So this final tip is that when you get signed to an agency or when you try to become a model, you are not going to have things like health insurance. You're not going to have things like a 401k for retirement, right? So in your modeling agency contract, it is going to be considered an independent contract, right? So whereas when you're with a typical corporate job, you get all of these benefits, right? Like you get benefits to go get your teeth fixed and your teeth whitened, and for you to have braces if you need to. But when you're a model, you do not have those benefits. You actually have to go out and get your own separate insurance and pay for that separately. Whereas with a corporate job, a lot of those expenses are already covered for you by your company. So again, all of this is to remind you the reason why you need to have those savings or other sources of income, so that you can make sure that you can still go to the doctor for your checkup, that if something happens, you're going to be able to go to the hospital or just, go get your eyes checked. So the insurance piece is a really big deal, and there are a lot of models that do not have insurance because they can't afford it. And so again, having that financial stability in one way or another, because you really need to make sure that if something does happen, that you are protected in that way, and that you don't end up with a huge bill, a huge medical bill, because you didn't have insurance for something super basic. All right, so there are a lot more things that I could say in terms of what you should know before you get into the modeling career, because there are so many nuances that people don't often talk about, that sometimes models are not honest about because they don't want you to understand some of the struggles that we have been through. So if you do have any questions for me, make sure that you put them in the comments, and make sure also that you don't forget to go to the description area and click that link for your free agency guide, and also click the link for the posing course. All right, that is it for this video. I will see you in the next one. Hit that subscribe button. Bye.